I would say my health hero story actually began back in 2014. I was just 31 years old at the time and at an inflection point in my career. I had left management consulting after about 9 years in the space and had recently joined a startup and made that transition into the startup world. And I had found out just 2 weeks actually after I left my consulting job that I was pregnant with my second daughter. And yet I still early in my pregnancy joined the startup, and I was actually at a 38-week ultrasound appointment when I felt a lump. And I immediately went to my OBGYN to express my concerns and was told that it's likely nothing to worry about because I was only 31, I was pregnant, and that it was most likely a clogged milk duct. But we insisted on further examination, and she referred us for an ultrasound appointment after all. But we never actually made it to that ultrasound and biopsy because 2 days later, my water broke and my newborn arrived 2 weeks early. So there was plenty to be distracted by. And if, having a C-section and a newborn wasn't enough, my daughter was actually born with complications and we had to be ambulance transported to a different hospital so she could be in the acute NICU. But even then, we kept the lump top of mind, and my husband wheeled me from the NICU to the neighboring breast clinic for an ultrasound and biopsy. And even there, the breast surgeon actually said it's likely nothing to worry about, the tissue feels soft, and it's probably a clogged milk duct. Luckily, a few days later, my daughter was discharged with a clean bill of health, and we were able to go home. And it was just that same weekend, the weekend of Father's Day, on her 1-week birthday, that I got the call from the breast surgeon saying the mass is malignant after all, and I had stage 2 triple negative breast cancer and would require a bilateral mastectomy, chemotherapy, and breast reconstruction. And so in the 1 year that followed, I had 10 rounds of chemotherapy and 4 surgeries. And I'm so thankful that we had advocated for ourselves and insisted on that ultrasound and biopsy when we did. And the reason that we felt empowered to make that insistence is because 2 years prior, in 2012, I had actually gotten genetic testing done. And I had found out then that I carry a mutation in my BRCA1 gene that dramatically increases my risk for both breast and ovarian cancer. And while that information at the time was incredibly difficult to hear, it was also greatly empowering and proved to be so when 2 years later, I had the power of that information and the power of the information of my risk to actually advocate for myself. And it would have been very easy to dismiss the lump, believe it was a clogged milk duct, because in fact, after my delivery and when the milk came in, I actually couldn't even feel the lump anymore. And had I waited a year after I stopped nursing until I felt that lump again, my prognosis would have been entirely different. But that genetic information both helped me detect my cancer at an earlier, more treatable stage, but then also informed my treatment and made sure I had the chemotherapy and surgical procedures that would be most effective for that diagnosis. And this past fall, I actually celebrated my 5-year anniversary of being cancer-free. After my treatment and when I returned to work, it felt much more important to me to be spending my time working in an industry that I felt more passionate about and more mission-driven in its purpose. And I came across a organization called Color Genomics, whose mission at the time was to democratize access to genetic testing for hereditary cancers. And so it effectively felt like this mission that had found me. And I was incredibly passionate about the work that they were doing, given that the role genetic information had had in me detecting my own hereditary cancer. And so I shifted professionally to focusing on healthcare, and I joined Color to lead their global B2B and B2B2C marketing team. And through that role, had the opportunity to more broadly share my own personal journey and the role genetic information had played in my life at healthcare conferences and other venues like that. And as time went on, I realized that this work of experience sharing that I had been doing on the side, either through Stanford, where my treatment had occurred, sharing my story more as a perspective of a patient and survivorship and the role of mindset, or through color in regards to the role of genetic information, I realized that that experience sharing is actually what I'm most passionate about. And I shifted my entire professional track to now being a champion of health, resilience, and a positive mindset, and spend my entire time focusing on inspirational speaking and patient advocacy around these points. And so on the professional side, it's been extremely transformative. And on the personal transformation side, I think we don't realize how much resilience we have until it's truly tested. And the journey that I went through helped me recognize my own resilience and helped me also over the years connect the dots of what type of behavior helped me strengthen my own personal resilience. And I now seek to, share those learnings and actionable steps with others, so that they can sort of, leverage the power of positivity in their own lives as well. You had asked some of the high and low points of this journey and of this transformation, and I guess starting with the low point is that when when you put yourself out there, which I have been very happy to do and have been a very open book, both during my treatment through blogging, my journey real time, and then in the years since the experience sharing that I've done, you also become a figure that others want to connect to when they themselves know of someone going through a difficult time. And I love that they do that and am happy to help them. But it is sad to hear how many people, and especially young people, in their 30s, also just having had their children, are increasingly being diagnosed with cancer as well. And so just the exposure to that I previously didn't have, has been sad to see, but I'm just so thankful I'm in a position to actually be able to help these individuals, and also recognizing that it's very challenging navigating the healthcare system. And so any advice that I can provide to help them do that, I'm very thankful for. In terms of the high point, what I would say is there have been a number of silver linings that have emerged from my own diagnosis and treatment. And that's why I've actually named the work that I do now Silver Linings, because it's not anything I could have expected 5-6 years ago. There's a direct link to my father's health being a silver lining, and his hearing being restored after being misdiagnosed for 25 plus years. And there's a direct link to saving my mother's life by knowing the genetic information that I had learned as the first member of my family, and then proactively making sure that my mother got tested and took proactive steps as well. And these are all experiences that didn't just happen. Like when people talk about silver linings, they talk about finding silver linings. And that to me feels more like a side effect of something that just happens as a result of something good. And what I'd like to advocate is the importance of creating your own silver linings. Because when I look back at my diagnosis and the 5-6 years, of silver linings that have emerged, it's not like something bad happened and then I did nothing and then something good happened. There was a lot of intention and learning from experiences and being a patient advocate for my father and for my mother that was learned through my own experience that then created these beautiful silver linings for their own health. And so that's an incredibly high point.